What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Today, I have a super special guest, Adam McChesney. I've known him for a couple years, actually worked with him one-on-one. You know, he was the marketing company for us. So luckily, I got him out here today. He's going to be providing a lot of value. So welcome, man.
Yeah, Kyle, thanks for having me, man. Super excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's dive deep into your story a little bit. Who is Adam McChesney?
Yeah, so born and raised here in St. Louis. I guess technically we're in Wentzville, so I'm in the middle of nowhere, but it's a different story for a different day. But grew up in South County, lived here pretty much my entire life, married my wife, Delaney, expecting our first kid here in about 3 or 4 weeks, a baby boy.
Amazing.
So I'm going to join
Congrats.
you in the dad situation, but super excited about that. I went to Columbia College, played soccer there for 4 years, graduated in 2014. Couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do right out of college. Tried to do some entrepreneurial type things, but never really found anything that stuck. And so I somehow landed my way into medical device sales. So was an industry that a lot of college soccer players that I played with that were successful after college were making some decent money. I'm like, I kind of want to get into that space. And so I worked for a small company here in St. Louis for about 18 months, and then I ended up working at ResMed. So if anybody's familiar with CPAP equipment, the masks, things like that, I managed a $25 million a year territory here in the state of Missouri. And then in 2018, I had just gotten promoted to that high-level role where I was managing all the territory and had all the money. That first year, I made $200K and had the benefits, all that stuff at the age of 26 going into 27. And in August of 2018, I proposed to my now wife, Delaney. And in November, I kind of had a crisis where I had traveled literally, I don't even know how many weeks it was in a row. And that was pretty consistent. I was on the road about 75% of the time. And I was just thinking, I was like, man, this time next year, I'm going to be married. And if I want to make more money than 200K, even though 200K is a lot of money, at least it was at the time, I thought, how do I make more of that, right? And it was going to be more travel, more responsibilities for a little bit more money in a managerial type role. And so I don't know what it was, but I was sitting in a hotel in Kansas City and I literally typed in how to make money online. And so I got targeted with ads on Amazon drop shipping, eBay reselling, like all of the crap in the world that everybody that tries to get into entrepreneurship or maybe has done at some point has did. And so I came across an ad when I went back on Facebook that was retargeting me from that search. And it basically sold this vision of an apartment building is like, you can own this with online real estate. And so I bought the course for $7,000 back in 2018 and just kind of started to play around with stuff. But that course essentially taught me how to build websites, rank websites, and run paid ads, get them to the first page of Google or somewhere near there where they're at least generating leads. And then I would go sell those leads. So it would either be a pay per call, pay per sale, or just like a flat monthly fee if it was hundreds and hundreds of calls a month. And so I threw crap against the wall for 2 years. I built 200 websites on my own, just the ins and outs of building simple websites and ranking them with SEO. And then the pandemic hit. So I had already started to be like, 2020 is going to be the year in which I leave ResMed. Like I literally remember writing that down on January 1st. And I was like, all right, December 31st, 2020, like I'm out. And then with the pandemic, it obviously escalated that because I wasn't traveling and we were closed down. They asked us to take a bunch of time off of work and things like that. So I went ham and I had built all those websites, but I was so scared to actually sell them because I was like, what if this works? So I was like, okay, I'm building these websites. I'm doing these little side jobs and things like that. But then I started to get $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $12,000 a month, which is where I hit before I went full time. So we ended our fiscal year and we had just bought our dream home. So I used the ResMed W-2 stuff to buy the home, which I'm grateful I did because it's a nightmare trying to do all that other stuff. I wouldn't have had it, right? And so I kind of had my back against the wall, put my 2 weeks in. Everybody kind of thought I was crazy and kind of went all in. And I started investing in myself in personal development, joining masterminds, hiring coaches, things like that. And then I did it on my own for about 9 months. But when I went full time, I started to promote what I was doing. I'm like, hey, I really can make this a big thing. And I started to have conversations with business owners. You and I probably have this conversation. And business owners were like, I really like that the digital marketing side of this, but like I don't want to rent this crap. I want to own it. And so I started following the money. So I started building websites for companies and doing SEO and paid ads, and I got up to about 30 clients doing all the work myself. And then kind of ran into a roadblock where I was like, I can't grow anymore. I don't know how to hire a team. I don't know how to run a business. I kind of have this really cool side hustle still that is paying me full-time salary, but I wanted more. And then that's when I kind of joined Height in April of 2021. And it's been a journey ever since. I was a franchise there for 2 years, built up the business from basically nothing to first 7 figures in 15 months. It's worth about $2.25 million in revenue right now on that book of business, but I became a partner in all of Height as of June 1st. So that's been an exciting new journey. And then I also own an auto glass company from one of those websites that I originally built in 2018. And then we had a landscape design business. Now it's more so just a joint venture where I sell the leads for money when sales go through.
It's amazing, man. I love it. I love it. You gave me more than what most people do. They're like, this is who I am in 30 seconds. So that was really good.
I wasn't sure how far I should go, but I figured just laid it all out there.
It gives me a lot of direction on where I want to take it. There was things I didn't even think about.
Yeah.
So you had this medical device sales. I guess you were an employee there, 1099. You were making $200,000 a year, which most people dream of making that in 40 years of, just actually working. I guess for the people who maybe aren't going the entrepreneur route and they're looking to get into med sales, what made you so successful, I guess, with that specific side of the business?
Yeah. So with medical device sales, it's not just about building up a book of business, but it's taking care of people and offering a really good service. So when I came into the territory, there had been a rep that had been there for 9 years, and he was kind of coasting. There was a lot of new products that we had launched, and there was only one other competitor on the devices and 2 other competitors on the masks. So it's like, all right, you can pretty much hide in some of those industries if you have a book of business, right? But I was like, all right, in order for me to make money now, I have to take care of that book of business, but I also have to grow it. So I started taking care of people on a different level of service, and I started to upsell different product lines and really become a solutions consultant to how our products would integrate with their technology, which would then provide them more money, because in medical device sales on the CPAP side, they get paid more when people are compliant. Well, if people stop wearing their CPAP device, insurance isn't going to keep paying you for so a lot of people, that is out there. And so once I started to take the solution sell, because I was the youngest rep at that point by about 10 years when I got promoted. So I got into ResMed on a support level role. So they decided to add this layer below their sales reps to provide more support with some national accounts and things like that. So I was probably the 3rd class of people they brought in, and I was the first one. It was 9 months in. I was the first one of that support role to get promoted to the next level. So I was kind of like the case study of like, is this person supposed to be hired this quickly on? I was thinking it was going to be 3 to 5 years before I got promoted into that next role, and then it happened in 9 months. But I just took care of people. I started selling solutions and not products, and taking care of the service, and that was pretty much the way to go.
Do you ever ask yourself like where you'd be if you continue to go down that path?
I mean, at times, yes. In the first year of entrepreneurship, when I did it full time, I definitely started to think it more and more. So I was up for a promotion already right before I ended up quitting, and I didn't get it. So I always think back as if they gave me that position, there's no way I would have taken the full-time opportunity to go into entrepreneurship. So I'm thankful that I didn't get that, but it was a great company. I mean, there's no reason why people don't leave to go start a digital marketing company after working at ResMed. And I'm always the type of person where I'm like, I want to do something different. I want to be different, but I want to have the opportunity. And I just felt like wherever I was going to go to work, I was always going to be unsatisfied. Like if I'm making $200K, I have all the benefits. I have the 401k, the employee stock program was incredible. Like if that isn't fulfilling enough for me from a monetary and things standpoint, there's probably nothing out there that will be.
So you have this job, right? You're making $200,000 a year. You come across this course. It's the classic how to make money online.
Yeah,
that's what everybody types in. And you come across this digital real estate, which is such a sexy model, we'll say. And you invested $7,000 into a course, which most people who I guess, take that leap into entrepreneurship, the last thing that most people are thinking of when they're a beginner is investing into programs and stuff like that. So what made you invest $7,000, into that program?
Yeah, so I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I came from a family of entrepreneurs, but it was bakeries, lawyers, and insurance agents. Didn't want to touch that, right? So I didn't know what avenue I was going to be able to take. But I also have always been the type of guy, even when I went full time and started to invest in coaches and programs, is I want to condense the amount of time it takes to be successful. And if I can do that by paying for information and then taking action on the information, great. So that course walked me through everything I needed to know to get me to that next point, albeit 2 years down the road. I took my sweet time with some of that stuff, but one of the things that I heard a lot of feedback on, which was just incredible, and I still hear it to this day, is when people hear that I built 200 websites with my own money and I didn't sell it unless there was performance, they were like, most marketing companies, at least how businesses feel, is that they feel like they're paying somebody to basically be the guinea pig. That, hey, I feel like I'm spending a bunch of money and it's getting just thrown against the wall with different trial and errors and things like that. Like, I literally built 2 companies from the ground up from those websites, and I built 200 websites on my own and didn't charge people for it. That course taught me how to provide the value again before selling and become the authority or build the authority in the space where people don't feel like they're getting ripped off time and time again.
Okay. So I guess I know nothing about building a website. A lot of people come to us and they're like, how do I build a website? I'm like, well, I've never even thought about it. I hire people to do it.
Yeah.
So how long does it even take to build a website? Were you building landing pages, or were you building like full on WordPress 8-page websites? And I guess how long does that take to actually rank?
Yeah, so I was using Weebly at the time. So Weebly is still a solid platform. There's a platform called Duda out there. Like, if you're not going to use WordPress, which is the gold standard, there's just a longer learning curve, and it's not as easy to do like the drag and drop stuff. So a lot of people like to use Wix and Squarespace. Terrible platforms if you're trying to rank or generate leads with them. So Weebly was like the dumb version that actually performed. So I would build 8-page websites. I would write all the content. I'd do all the technical SEO. Typically, it would take about 5 or 6 weeks if I was writing all the content. I started to hire out people to write the content for these sites, and then I would just build them myself and do the SEO. Typically, it was about 5 to 6 weeks. Now, these were brand new websites, meaning that there was not an existing business. Like when you came and we built Slam Dunk and Junk, you at least had that URL that was out there. So it would take longer, because this is a brand new business that Google doesn't necessarily know about. Between 6 to 9 months of consistent SEO, we were starting to see some significant leeway. Now, before that, we would get leads that came in through the Google business listing. So I would start like a kind of like a fake LLC and get a Google business listing up there. I'd send it to an address and get that verified. And so that kind of started to help. But then when those things kind of met at their equilibrium point and started to generate things together, that's when we really started to be like, all right, I need to pick up the phone. Because it wasn't just generating leads that was the problem in that model. It's a great model. But I would then have to pick up the phone and sell the website. Like, hey, I got all these leads, and people would be like, dude, no, you don't. Like that, there's no way you're getting that many phone calls. Like the Autoglass one, I was literally trying to sell this to Safelite. I'm like, you guys are spending so much money. Just take over my website and pay a fraction of what. They're like, there's no way you're generating that many calls. I'm like, all right, I'll just become your competitor.
Data doesn't lie.
Yeah, I'll just become your competitor.
So when I think of SEO, because that's something also I've hired you to do, basically from the get-go. When I think of SEO, it's okay, I'm going to pop up on the first page someday. That's all I think about, right? Yeah. So what even is SEO, and what are you doing on the back end to make sure that you're getting to that first page on Google?
Yeah, great question. So I like to look at SEO on 2 different aspects depending upon what you are more familiar with. So the foundation of a house or going to the gym, right? So when you build your website, the first thing Google's looking at is what platform is this built on? So if it's built on a WordPress or a Weebly or a Duda, you're going to be set up a lot better than if it's on a GoDaddy, a Squarespace, or a Wix. So that's kind of the first thing that Google's looking at. The second thing is the foundation of that website. So the things that are on the back end of the website that nobody can see other than Google. Or if you're a marketing agency and we're able to pull it up on that audit tool and see specifically what it says, that's where most people go wrong. So they'll have a website built, maybe they'll build it themselves or hire a freelancer, pay somebody on Fiverr to do it. And the back end, it might look nice, but the back end, Google has no idea what you do. So on every single page, you have the ability to put a title and a description. And that title and description are essentially telling Google, hey, this is what I do. These are the keywords I want to rank for, and here's where I'm located. Most people don't have that, or they'll have a very generic thing that just populated from how the website was built. Then from there, you have the ability to have headers, H1 headers all the way down to H6 headers. So like on your guys' website, the homepage had, all the different services you offer. On the back end of that, you're able to tag that to Google to be like, hey, this is a junk removal service in St. Louis. This is Hoarder House Clean Out St. Louis. And then they take a look at how many words are on the homepage, as well as every single image on your website can be tagged with a keyword called alt text. So even if it's a picture of this building, for example, we could take that to your website and be like, Google, this is a picture of a junk removal company doing X, Y, and Z in St. Louis. You do that on the homepage, and then you also do that on every other page you add to your website. So that's kind of like the technical foundation where most people go wrong. And then where the gym part comes into it, that would be like you going and signing up for your gym membership. Okay, I'm here, Google, I'm here, take it or leave it, right? Where you continuously go to the gym is where you start to write blogs. You start to have location pages for all the areas in and around St. Louis and St. Charles that you service in, because Google's not going to know if you service those areas other than the fact that on your Google business listing, you just have a large service area. So you have to consistently show up each and every single month, add new pieces of content to the website, and then off the website, you can go get backlinks, citations. There's a whole other technical strategy, but there's basically those two different components. On the website, adding new content, and then that offline strategy, as well as the Google business listing.
So if I were to buy, we'll say I sold Slam Dunk and Junk website, and say it's on the first page in St. Peters, Missouri. For somebody to continuously stay on that first page over time, they have to be posting blogs and they have to be posting different stuff every single month. Otherwise, they'll continue to fall. Is that right?
Yeah. So SEO is not going to go away. So that's the one thing is people are like, oh my gosh, if I invest all this SEO, well, it's different than investing in ads, because yes, you could have the ads that you built previously, but there's not a lot of value in there other than the data. You're still going to have to turn it back on and somebody's going to monitor it. When you pay for SEO, you're going to get that at the end of the situation. So, 6 months down the line, it doesn't work out. You at least have all that digital real estate out there. You're better off there than you were when you started going to the gym. But in order to continue to go above and beyond where you're at, you have to continuously do it. So you might see some drop off. It's probably going to take 3 to 6 months. But if your competitors are playing catch up and then they're continuously doing it, that's where you're going to see the bigger drop off. It's not that your SEO is going away. It's just that people are trying to beat you out and you stopped going to the gym and they're like, all right, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym.
Yeah, I always wondered, because as a marketing company, right, people are going to continuously pay you when they're thinking in their head, hey, I'm paying to get on the first page. Well, once they're on the first page, why do they continue to pay you? Well, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, do I want to stay? I mean, it's no different than personal development or growing business, right? Do I want to stay where I'm at $1 million, or do I want to get 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, if you don't do the things to build your business, you're going to be right here and your competitors are going to go above and beyond where you're at.
So what are some ways that people can make the process quicker for SEO? Because I've done it for a long time, and basically it takes a lot longer than most people think. And people, if they were going to invest into SEO, right, they start spending $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, whatever it costs, and they expect the phone to start ringing overnight, and they think it's just going to change the game for them when it takes time. And I remember you used to show me a graph where it's very slow process, and then it's just through the roof. And for me, we were just paying for SEO every single month. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of, me being a junk removal owner, all the leads that I was looking at, even though I was spending $10,000 a month on Google ads, Google organic. So what are some quicker ways that people can, I guess, speed up that process?
Yeah. So Google reviews is going to be huge. So not even just getting Google reviews, but having the Google reviews be very descriptive. And so what I mean by that is if somebody is doing a junk removal clean out in St. Peters at a home, and let's just say it's an estate clean out, if that customer, when they're leaving a Google review, can be that specific about that, what that's going to do is also going to show Google a way to tie that back to your website when you have a St. Peters page on your website and or an estate clean out page on your website. So the more descriptive that you can be with Google reviews and do that at quantity, those two things are going to tie together. So of course, from a marketing agency standpoint, we're going to tell you to go get more reviews. That's you doing the work and not us necessarily doing anything. But we have also seen it where we build out a big, robust website over a couple of years, and there's 2 Google reviews. Well, the map pack accounts for about 70% of all of those things. Yes, we can get you more citations. Yes, we can post more to, like, we'll post once a week for our clients on their Google business listing. So that's another thing that you can do, adding photos consistently and having posts. But if one thing is not holding up the end of the bargain and the other thing's doing really, really good, it's no different than you going to the gym and having a massive upper body and then you're like, I'm never going to work out my legs. So those two things can go hand in hand. The only thing that can really speed it up is doing that specifically.
So reviews are, I've been in the service-based industry for a long time, and reviews can be a little more challenging to get for a lot of people because they don't understand the process of getting reviews. So with CRMs, you can automatically send a review or, hey, will you leave us a review once the job is done? And I would assume that there was a very low conversion for us. So for you to advise your clients on getting more reviews, I remember you said something to my clients where you were like, hey, ask them from the get-go whenever you first start doing the job, so you prepare them to leave the review before you leave. And then a lot of people are just like, they say, hey, will you leave me a review at the end? We'll give you $15 off. They're like, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. And then they leave and they never end up getting the review.
Yeah.
So I guess what are some ways that you suggest that, ways that will just help somebody get more reviews?
Yeah. I mean, we hear it all the time, right? Like when I tell somebody that, they're like, oh, you don't know how hard it is. Well, there's only one other marketing company in St. Louis that has more Google reviews than we do. Ours are all 5 stars, and we've been in business for 3 years where they've been in business for 10, 15. Our auto glass company is 2 reviews. I think we're two reviews away from 300. And we've been in business for 2.5 years. And the competitor that's above us has 320, but they've been in business for 22 years, right? So everything that we tell, and again, you're not going to see this with every marketing agency, but everything that we tell our clients to do, it's not that we're telling you to do it because it's a way for us to buy more time. It's because it's worked in our businesses as well. For our auto glass company, where we made the big shift is we did automate it through our CRM, which helped a little bit, but it was exactly what you just talked about, is selling the review and setting the expectations before the job is actually done. So on our auto glass company, we go out to people's homes or businesses, we repair or replace. And what we'll do is we'll get out to the job. We'll say, hey, Kyle, thanks for hiring us. We're going to replace this windshield on your X, Y, and Z car. It's going to take about 45 minutes. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take some pictures because we got to submit this into our CRM, especially if that's for insurance. So that way we can have the before and after. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expect the car and see if there's any other damages, things like that. So that way, if anything happens throughout the process, you're not thinking we did it or didn't do it, what have you. And then what we're going to do after that is I will take 45 minutes to do this. And then after this, we'll do a post replacement inspection. And if anything goes wrong, maybe it's going to take longer or shorter because some of these people leave and they're not there or they're at work, and we will communicate that to you, right? So we want to be proactive in communicating. At the end of this, our goal is to get a 5-star review. You probably found us from Google, and so this is what's going to help us help more people just like yourself. Would you be okay if we did everything that we said we're going to do, we charged exactly what we quoted you, and then we delivered a 5-star service? Would you be willing to do that? Everybody's going to say yes. So you have that first win. Then 45 minutes goes by, you say, Kyle, blah, 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 we're good to go. Hey, can you leave that 5-star review? It's a lot more likely that they're going to do it. It's not a slam dunk. No pun intended. But what we also do is people will say, well, hey, I'll just do it later. Can I get a business card? What we do is we will literally pull it up and have it ready to go on the back of an air freshener. So one of the things, obviously, is we're helping people with their windshield in their car. There's an auto glass repair of STL air freshener with the QR code that leads it to the back. We'll literally pull it up and then be like, hey, if you wouldn't mind just leaving it here. We get that all the time, and a lot of people don't actually leave the review. I'm not saying you're that person, Kyle, but it would really, really help us. We're a local small business. We're trying to impact the community. And then typically that's where we see the conversion. And then we're like, hey, here's the auto glass freshener. It smells really nice. So you're giving them something to give away for free. You're not having to mark $15, $25 off the actual quote or you getting paid.
You laid it out perfectly, and it seems so simple, which really it is. All you have to do is do it. I look at the amount of jobs that we actually did as a junk removal business, and here we are with 150 reviews or whatever it is at right now, where it's like, if you break down the conversion, it's so low. And some of those people we might not even have done jobs for as well. I guess, which leads me to another thing. There's a lot of people online that talk about buying reviews. Is that good for somebody to go out there and buy 500 reviews? Is it going to help you?
No, not. I mean, so Google has a way of picking it up. Now, whether they pick it up right away or they pick it up 6 months down the line doesn't really matter. I also think it's more of an ethical thing. So it's like, all right, are you going to run your business that way too? I mean, that's a question you have to ask yourself, but it is going to catch up with you at some point, right? No different than doing SEO tactics that shouldn't be done. You might get away with it a little bit, but it's going to come back. The one thing that I wanted to touch on that we were just talking about is one of the other things that we see is that the employees or the people that are at the job sites, they tend to not have the same motivation as obviously somebody that owns the company to get those reviews. So one of the things we have done is compensate employees based on getting a Google review or doing a competition. We have 4 different trucks out on the road right now, so everybody's got their own truck. We will put money into a bucket that at the end of the week, whatever truck gets the most Google reviews is going to get that reward. So then you kind of start to create that competition. But this leads into a much bigger thing is in order to really grow and scale and do this stuff as business owners, we have to help our employees understand the impacts of everything that they're doing. So Kyle, the reason why we need this Google review, yes, we're going to compensate or put it into a pool, but when we get more Google reviews, that builds the likelihood that we're going to get more exposure, which keeps me paying you and allows me to pay you even when times are slow. That's our goal. But most people are just like, hey, get a Google review because we need more rankings. You have to explain and help them understand the vision of where things are at and why it's impactful to them, the technician of an auto glass company, when they can go work for Safelite for the same amount of money potentially or sometimes less. But you have to help your employees understand where they're at in the company and the vision and why each individual task they do matters to you, but also matters to them.
Yeah, and if they're not incentivized, they're not going to do it either way. So many,
Yep.
like with, and you're not on the job sites as a business, for you, you're not, I know you're not on the job sites. So they might say, hey, yeah, we are asking for reviews. We're just, they're saying no or whatever. You could either as a business owner be like, yep, they're asking, nobody just does it. Or you could be the problem solver. For me, we collected junk all the time. We were dumping 200,000 pounds of junk every single month, and we scrapped nothing. I wasn't on the trucks. I wasn't answering the phone calls. I didn't do anything, right? One competitor calls me one day and he says, hey, Kyle, you guys are crushing it. I see you at the scrapyard every single day. And I'm like, we don't go to the scrapyard. I haven't got paid any, scrap money. So then I call my employees and I'm like, hey, have you guys been going to the scrapyard? Oh, no, we haven't been there. We might have been there one time, but we didn't get paid or anything. What I found out was they were making money on the side, but since I didn't watch or I wasn't on the job sites or I didn't see, I don't know how much money I lost because they were actually going to the scrapyard and I was losing that money. In the way, I could have fired them and that sort of thing, which I didn't want to have to rebuild just off that one situation where I said, hey, we can't do that. But basically what I ended up doing was I ended up incentivizing them per truck. They all rode on the same truck. So, truck A, truck B, truck 1, truck 2, whatever. And then basically they would compete to who could scrap the most. And then the winning truck would end up getting 20% of the scrap. And then we started scrapping. We were making an additional 5 figures a year when I just dropped the ball before that.
Yeah. And I'd be curious, did you tell them before that, hey, you have to report all the scrap back? Or was it probably just something in your mind that you were thinking?
Yeah, I figured that they would do the right thing.
Exactly.
I never said anything.
So that's the one thing that I've learned consistently about entrepreneurship and building culture and building teams is stuff that is first, basically second nature to us is not so obvious to other people. And it wasn't probably that they were, that does sound like they were trying to do something maybe a little bit deceiving. Yeah. But when you never set the expectations, right? The expectations was, we don't have a rule. Like, this is just what it is. But then you did that, and then you also made it to where you incentivize them, but it also builds the company. When you win, they win.
You systemize it.
Yeah.
Nothing was wrote down. No, I didn't write anything down. So they were, there was just a lack of structure there. So I guess you obviously had these websites that you were renting out to different businesses, junk removal, auto glass, landscape construction, and some of these ended up popping off to where you ended up starting the actual business. So I guess get into that side of the business.
Yeah. So in late 2020, my marketing agency wasn't where it was when obviously I ended up getting to $1 million in a year and all those different things. So in my mind, I was like, I have this really cool asset, and I'd been calling around to auto glass companies for over a year. Like, please take this website off my hands. Like, I will charge you super, super low. I just want to get something back from it, right? And everybody was like, no, like we can't handle 300-400 calls a month. Like, it's a lot of calls. They're like, we don't even get that many calls right now. And so I finally got one guy to take it for about a year. He was paying me like $500 a month to basically rent for over that. I'm like, dude, you don't understand how much money you're saving, because he was doing Google ads at like $7-8 a click. So I was like, you're getting well over that for just that. But I kept getting so frustrated because I was calling and I was literally getting my way up the chain to SafeLight and some of these larger companies in St. Louis. And they just kept saying, no, this isn't real. No, you can't do this. Like, there's no way you're generating this many calls. And so I just got this crazy idea, because in that course that I took, there was other people that started companies just from the exact same thing. So in that course, we call it the arbitrage model. And I say, you know what? I'm just going to start the company. And so it's the craziest freaking story, but I was trying to sell an auto detailing guy on a website, and he's like, hey, I don't have the money. He's like, hey, I pretty much landed on my face after COVID. I got laid off. I don't have anything. So I kind of molded over, talked to a mentor, and I was like, I'm just going to tell this guy, like, let's start the company together. Terrible decision, because he was all over the place. It was really good for about the first 3 months, but I invested in that first year. I invested a little over $60,000 between 2 trucks, all the equipment, freaking sending this guy out to California to train. I mean, it just terrible, but great learning lesson. So I almost ran that company into the ground once we got started, because I didn't know how to do auto glass. I didn't know how to do repair. I didn't know how to do replacement, but I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I know how to generate leads. And so over that course of about the first 9 months, we ended up having to let this guy go. Found a manager that she's still with us today, and she answered the calls, really learned the ins and outs of the business, saved the business. And then a lot of stuff happened up and down, but right before I started to realize I didn't need this in my life, like I didn't want to have the full burden of writing the checks and doing the payroll and all this crazy stuff, because I was seeing my marketing agency go this way, I decided to let other people come in. So I still own a small percentage of it, but my uncle came in, invested some money to get the company back up and running, because we were only at 1 truck at that time. We're now at 4 trucks with a 5th getting ready to go on the road. Gonna do about $1 million this year in revenue, whereas the most we did, I think, in 2021 was about like $250K. And so we saved the business really when I stepped out. And so I realized I learned a lot throughout that journey, trusting people. Like, I let that dude, basically this guy told me, he went out to a course and he's like, hey, none of these small trucks, none of these small vans are going to work. We need an I don't know cars very well.
450, yeah, I remember you had that big white truck.
Big white truck, $70K. $70K I put down. I didn't put down all $70K, but like I put down like 10 G's up front. And this is when our marketing company was really starting to go and go and go. And it was just shiny object syndrome of like, man, this could make me some more money. Because when we were doing stuff in the beginning, I mean, the company was clearing. I never took a dime from it, but the company was clearing like $2-3K a week in profit. And we were just reinvesting it back in.
The windshield business.
The windshield business was. But then this dude drives that truck across the country, wrecks the inside of it, like literally it looked like an animal got in, and there was all this crap as we were getting ready to sell the van back, or the truck back, because we're like, we don't need this truck. We ended up finding out he just wanted that for his personal vehicle. So we didn't put GPS system, like I had no idea what I was doing, but I trusted this dude. he was going through a hard time, and I realized, all right, maybe I can help him. Like, I've always tried to help people, and I've take my shirt off my back to give it to them, and we do the same thing for a lot of our marketing clients. And then I've learned is, a lot of people are just going to still F you over. And so that was a good learning lesson. But yeah, did that for about a year and a half where I owned 100% of the company. I took a step back, and over the last year, it's blossomed.
That's such a challenge that I've had as well, is like, you get that shiny object syndrome where you go and hire that employee. Like, I've done different businesses, obviously, and you go hire an employee and you think that they have what it takes to be able to run this thing, right? And you're the lead guy. You're no expert when it comes to the windshield business, when you almost need to be you need to become the expert before you can train that person and tell them exactly what to do. And you probably didn't want to be the operation guy anyways.
Yeah.
To where I've constantly hired these employees, and it just ended up not going as well, where I constantly have to learn the lesson over and over and over again, where it's like, when am I going to learn?
Yeah. And I think it also is like that guy didn't know auto glass. So it's like, we're learning this together. When I did the landscape design business for about a year before it turned into more of a joint venture, this guy had been in landscape design for 12 years, and he just decided he wanted to get out of the business and then move back down to Springfield. But that was a much better experience because I was just doing the marketing. And I didn't put up all the money and do all that stuff. So that's what intrigues me. And I know you and I have kind of talked about the future of other opportunities, is having small equity in these companies, whether they're brand new or they're struggling, to provide the different aspects, wear those different hats for other people. Because the businesses that start up, a lot of businesses don't make it past 3 years. It's because they can't wear all of the hats and they're trying to own 100% of everything. I've learned a lot, especially in my merger to becoming a partner at Height. There's a lot of value in owning less of more, right? Instead of being like, oh no, I have to have 100% of this pie. You can, but you're gonna go through it, man.
Lesson to be learned is be the investor.
Be the investor.
Apparently, according to Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
So I guess, with the windshield business, you are replacing the windshields. Are you also repairing cracked glass?
Both.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's funny, I talked to somebody yesterday. Somebody DM'd me on Instagram, and they wanted to start a coaching business, funny enough.
Yeah.
And they're in the windshield repair business, but they only did the cracks.
Yeah.
And they didn't do the actual
replacements.
The replacements. Is there like more money in one of the other? Or?
So there's a lot more money, or there's a lot more profit margin in repairs. So repairs cost people about $100, depending upon how big the chip is and if there's multiple chips. But the cost in terms of like the material that actually takes to repair that is like $5. Now, of course, you have the gas and paying the employee, but you're at a much different profit margin when you're doing replacements. And the nice thing about how we built the business, it was all off of digital marketing, which means people have already exhausted calling their insurance agent or making a post on social media who does auto glass replacement. So we get a lot of cash and credit card versus doing things through insurance. Now, we have gotten insurance contracts. We have gotten commercial fleet contracts with UPS and Amazon and FedEx and U-Haul, and then some of the dealerships. But when you go through insurance, which is where a lot of these auto glass companies thrive off of, you get paid way later, and they pay about 30% less than the market value because they're an insurance company and you want their business. So the repair stuff, like I know a guy here in St. Louis that's done it his whole life, and he makes some decent money working a couple days a week because he just does a couple a day, and it's good.
So I've got a couple windshields replaced. You guys have actually replaced them.
Yeah.
And I feel like something I wouldn't like about that business is there's, I buy a windshield, for example, and, whoever ships it out, whoever owned that glass initially, they ship it to you, and then you open up the box or whatever it's in, and you're like, oh, this thing's cracked. We got to get a new one. Does that happen quite often?
No, not as regularly as you might think. So there's 3 different distributors in town. So we have to go to the distributor. They verify the glass. So typically they'll have extra around if it's a typical car. Very rarely do we have to wait like more than 48 hours to get that glass. But it's interesting how they have it set up, and we also don't have a physical office or space. So we have to go to these places and get the glass to get picked up. But it's a cool model that we don't have to like verify all that stuff. Basically, we take it from them, put it in the van, and then go out to the client.
Do you think you guys will ever get into like window tinting or like any other services that you can offer the same exact clients?
Yeah, we're actually looking to get into window tinting right now. So we're looking at potentially buying a window tinting company, maybe even a franchise, or if anybody listening is in window tinting and wants an opportunity, we're also looking for somebody to come on. But yeah, that's actually what we're looking to do, and potentially also get a space because like in the winter and things like that, it can get kind of tough. And people sometimes just like driving it in if we can get it done quicker.
That's cool, man. Do you know? I guess you're not like a massive partner, obviously, in this business anymore.
Not at all.
Let's move on to the landscape construction side of things. So you basically wanted to start your own business of that. I assume that it's less hands-on with that. Are you still doing the landscape construction, or you kind of got into it?
Right now, we're just in a joint venture where we're just selling the leads that are coming in. What happened was I met a guy back in March or April of 2021. Started the auto glass company, the marketing company's getting ready to go up. I just, merged with Height, and this guy's like, "Hey, I heard you do X, Y, and Z. Just curious, are you generating any landscape design leads?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Let's start the company." So then I start essentially a third company in less than a year. And he's like, I explained the issues we were having in the auto glass company. And he's like, "Dude, literally, like, I'll start the company. You own 20% of it. All you have to worry about is getting me leads." So we did that for almost a year, and then we couldn't find good help. We did almost $250,000 in revenue in really only about 8 months. And so we were generating the leads, like really high quality leads, because we had a landscape design site, we had our company branded site, and we had a retaining wall specific site. So we had 3 different websites that were all almost competing with each other on the first page of Google. So we were getting people to call into every single one. And we were really good at it. We just couldn't find enough people, and we didn't have really the credibility and just didn't have the business sense there. But yeah, he moved back down to Springfield, Missouri. So I still had the sites up, and now I just joint venture them out. Like, hey, pay me a commission basically as a sales rep when a job goes through. But I was really excited about that company. We were making some good money, but like I couldn't. Knowing what I knew in the auto glass company, I couldn't be like, "Hey, I'm just going to take everything over and try to do it myself."
Right.
And then I also wasn't going to get pissed at the guy for moving back to Springfield because he wanted to do something else.
Right.
So.
It makes sense. I actually have a buddy who's in the landscape construction business. I don't know if you know this guy, Chase Gallagher, but he was on the first podcast that we did.
Yep.
And just listening to him, I'm like, dude, there's insane money in this business. What's your average ticket? And he was like, I'm pretty sure he said 10 grand. Like, they don't really do jobs that are under $10,000. And he doesn't even spend money on ads or anything.
Yeah.
All organic, easy to scale to 7 figures from the most part. But he does have a really good team. So
the crazy part is like, again, with all this SEO stuff, you can go super, super deep. So on our landscape design site, we had a page for every potential project we would do. Outdoor kitchens, patios, all this stuff that a lot of the competitors in St. Louis didn't have. And then I built a service area page where it's like, okay, St. Peter's, O'Fallon, Chesterfield, St. Charles, Kirkwood, all those areas. And then I would build sub pages for outdoor kitchens in St. Peter's. We just had more crap out there than everybody else. We were a brand new company, and then we had all those other sites feeding into it. We were getting asked to quote like $30,000, $40,000 projects. And this was a company that literally just started. That's why I was like, man, this is incredible if we could just get this figured out.
You were thinking about picking up a hammer.
Dude, well, not that far. Like one of the times they were like, hey, he's like, dude, do you know anything about concrete? Like people are just not showing up to work. We were finding guys randomly. I'm like, dude, you don't want me on this concrete project. Like, I'm good.
Me either. I don't even know. I don't even know how to mix it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in this marketing business. This is actually like a question I've been wanting to ask you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of marketing businesses out there that chose one niche, and they say the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
So if you're a marketer for junk removal, specifically staying in your lane of junk removal, why did you not necessarily choose a niche? Because you're in you're in junk removal, you're in landscape construction, you're in all these different industries. Why did you choose to be a little more broad?
Yeah, so great question. So in the first 9 months before I transitioned to Height, I was kind of still in that discovery phase. So I had some junk removal clients. I had a couple moving company clients. I had obviously the auto glass stuff. I had roofers. I had all that stuff. The thesis behind all of that is people try to make SEO and marketing way more complicated than it actually is. SEO for service-based businesses, whether it's auto glass, junk removal, the intent of the buyer is the exact same. The strategies are a little bit different in terms of the content that you add to the website and what you write about it, but the actual strategy itself doesn't change at all. I was getting ready to get super, super niche down in one or two things when I decided to merge with Height. Now, the reason why an agency is going to merge down is because they have maybe 10 employees at most if they're an industry-specific agency, if everything is in-house, and they just want their entire company to know junk removal, junk removal, junk removal, junk removal. They don't want to reinvent the wheel every single time. Well, the benefit in when I joined Height is we now have 150 employees. We now have 700 clients between our multiple locations, and we have mini pods within our company that are certainly focused on those specific industries. Now, we're never going to be an industry-specific junk removal, marketing agency only or roofing agency only. But when you go and you talk to those marketing agency niches, I'm friends with a lot of them, they have maybe 20, maybe 30 clients. Whereas in junk removal, at one point, we've had close to 60. So we're never going to be the industry expert or only focus on that, probably just do that so then we're not an industry expert, but we have more data and more clients in that space. Typically, when you go to those specific agencies, you pay a lot more, which is good because that's all that they do, but they only take on certain clients spending certain number of revenue. So it allowed me to do more with less because I didn't have to only focus my team on this. I had a much bigger team that could serve clients in all these different verticals. And if we have the data in that space, why not go after it?
Yeah, man. So I guess if you didn't merge with Height, would you have stuck with a one or two niches, or would you have?
I was going down that path. So roofing and remodeling were the two that I had the most clients in. And those are the industries that we were just seeing really, really good success with. I only had a couple junk removal clients at the time. And then obviously through working with you, that continued to grow and grow and grow. But those were like the two industries that we were just seeing the best success with. Those are also larger ticket jobs. So it's like, all right, I can do one remodel. I can get somebody one remodel job a month or one roofing job a month. And that would take literally 15 junk removal jobs to get the exact same amount of revenue. So higher ticket is much nicer to work with.
It's way easier to scale, different type of client. Yeah, my buddy, I know that I think you follow him, Stevie Johnston.
Yeah.
And he chose with the niche of just chiropractors. And I know that Ty Lopez, I don't know if you ever bought any of his programs or anything like that, but I know that he kind of, I guess, made awareness of the SMMA space. And he told a lot of people to target those, the doctors, that sort of thing, the higher ticket clients, where I was basically asked myself, why are you going after junk removal owners where it's, you're selling $400 jobs, $300 jobs, to where it's a little bit harder to scale?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, every agency probably should have just a niche. We're the only people that are in the space doing it in the franchise model that we had. So we've just built up, even as I've merged, I now have a direct team of 150 people with all of these access to clients and strategies. So it'd almost be a disservice to the people that I'm talking to because okay, yeah, you can go find an industry specific company. They're going to pay you a lot more, but we have more results and more data.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really make sense to turn that away.
Right. Okay. So you're owning Height, right? You get all these different employees who own, or I guess they don't own, but they're doing different sides of the business. So you're starting to take on success managers and stuff like that. So you're, marketing, you're obviously in a recurring type of model. People are paying you every single month, and you start to get churn and stuff like that. I guess what kind of churn were you having, maybe at your peak, or, where you were scaling pretty big and you started to come across these obstacles? How did you reduce that churn rate?
Yeah, great question. So our average client in my book of business over the last 3 years has stayed with us about 11 and a half months. Our churn overall over that time is right around 7%. Industry average is typically around 25% month over month, depending upon what service that you're actually providing. The difference was really removing myself from everything in the business, as well as providing more account managers than we probably needed. So I built up this personal brand over the last couple of years where people are like, hey, if we need digital marketing of some kind, Not to say you have to work with Adam, but you should have a conversation with him. So through that, I went from 20 clients before Height to almost 150 in 18 months, really just on providing a good service, taking care of people, building networks. The rest goes on, ton of referrals, things like that. But when I'm the face of everything, when I go to all these events and I create these partnerships and all these things, when I was at 20 clients, when you first started with me, it was me and you, right? It was me and you. And as I started to grow when I went to Height, when I was Adam McChesney in Ms. Marketing, nobody really knew that it was Ms. Marketing. They just knew Adam McChesney because I was the salesperson, I was the business owner, I was the account manager, I built the websites, I did everything, right? So it was quick. And I did such a good job, regardless of the time of the day, I would answer people, right? And so as you build a team, I didn't step away quick enough in certain areas, but then was too involved in other areas that led people to probably think, oh, I'm going to sign up with Adam and literally I'm just going to work with Adam all day long. And so I started to really promote Height. I started to promote my personal brand separate over the last year and a half to really separate those two things. But I think people just wanted to talk to me more than anything. Like I still have clients today that have been with me for 3.5 years. Sometimes they'll call me and I'm like, hey, how can I help? And they're like, oh, just needed this change on our website. You can talk to, you can talk to me. Yeah. There's 4 other people, like literally 4 layers of stuff. Oh no, I know, but I also just wanted to talk to you. I wanted to let you know how everything's going. How's it like, and I'm like, okay, I get that. And I didn't set good enough boundaries in the beginning. And so it caused us to really hire account manager after account manager after account manager because we were also growing. But typically I would have, an account manager work with 20 clients, whereas a lot of agencies will have them work with 40 or 50. I just wanted people to be taken care of. So I spent a lot of money on that so I could also work on myself and not just have this crazy lifestyle. Because it wasn't that we were losing, we would have had to lose a lot of clients and also sell a lot of clients for me to go from 20 to 150. We keep clients around. So it's like, all right, I need to think about the next hire. The benefit of doing it with Height in that franchise model was I didn't have to hire all the SEO people. I didn't have to hire all the web design people.
And that's not the fun part either.
Exactly. That's the tough part. Yeah. I can hire people and train them on how to talk to people, on how to read reports, on how to build the relationship. And that's what we were good at doing. So it kind of just kept going and going and going. And the more visibility I got with my personal brand, it kind of just started to do that. And then the last thing that I pulled away was from the sales process. All of our clients that have signed up within the last year have likely, other than maybe 1 or 2, gone through the process talking with Demi, who's on our team. And the quicker I move away from the conversation, the better the situation has been.
I love it, man. So, okay, so you're owning your marketing business. You get into Height. You're kind of doing more of the fun part, I guess. And then you end up exiting kind of your own business. Is that how it is? Or
basically more of like a merger.
Okay.
So our franchise, along with 2 other franchises, basically dissolved and then merged into the corporate office. So before that, Height was a white label agency where they white labeled for a couple hundred marketing agencies and things like that. Then they moved to this franchise model, working direct with businesses through the franchises. And then in this new model, kind of our 2.0 model, we're going direct to work with clients through the corporate office while also supporting our digital marketing agencies that are franchises. So in that merger, nothing has changed. Really, the only thing that's changed is on my side, which is good. I'd rather have it that way. Our clients get more access and support to our fulfillment team. There's more layers and things like that. My team, they've either stayed in the role that they were in or got promoted into a new role with a lot more upward mobility because in my tiny little franchise, there's only so many leadership seats. There's only so many things we're going to be able to do. Where things change for me is I own a part of it, but I'm also building up our sales department and our growth department. So that's kind of my new thing, what I've done. But yes, it's more of a merger than an exit.
It was a win-win for everyone.
It was, yeah.
So I want to get into paid per click because the quickest way for any business to get leads is probably to run some sort of paid per click ad. But a lot of people, when you look at, their model, like everyone's spending money on ads for the most part. A lot of people are. But they're not spending more money on ads, which makes you question how much money they're really making. Because if it was making really, really good money, they would continue to up their budget.
100%.
And it's become so much harder to make money on ads because there's so many people who are spending money. Google is controlling how much you're even going to pay for clicks and conversions and that sort of thing. So I guess what should anybody expect when they go into running paid per click on Google or Facebook? Like, should they expect to break even? Should they expect to 10x their money? Is it all based on the copy? Is it, what would you say there?
So Google and Facebook are going to be two completely different platforms in terms of all of those things. Both platforms, you should just go in giving it 3 to 6 months. Like that should just be a minimum of what you're going to give it in terms of testing it out, assuming you're working with the right marketing agency, or if you're doing it on your own. That could obviously vary, but also assuming you have the right budget. A lot of times people are trying to come to us in a variety of different industries. Oh, I want to spend a couple $100 a month. Okay, not going to work. You could do it for 12 months and still not have enough data there. So you need to have enough data to be able to see if something is working or not, and then you have to track all of those things. So you have to use that leads dashboard that we have to see not only the calls that are coming in, but what the keywords are on Google that are leading to that. The same thing goes on Facebook. Facebook is going to be more of that reactive buyer where they're not actively looking for your service, but if they randomly see your ad, they might be interested in doing it. Typically what we see with Facebook is it's really good for branding. It's really good for remarketing and retargeting. So somebody that's already interacted with your website or your brand, and then you hit them with that ad, they might then be ready to actually do it. But in terms of a straight lead gen model, it's really kind of gone away, and it produces quantity in leads, but it's usually people looking for free or cheap, not your ideal client. Whereas Google, in both situations, you're going to be able to start generating leads in theory immediately. But the optimization is really going to take course around about 90 days. So that's why we say 3 to 6 months. With Google, somebody's going and actively, intently making that
Junk
search.
removal near me.
Something like that. Yes. So they have an intent to buy. It's a much higher quality lead. You're going to pay a lot more for it. Typically, it's about 3 to 5x more expensive to get the lead on Google than it will be on Facebook. You just have to kind of see the difference there. Now, with all of those things, it's really important for you to track, as we talked about, the results of the calls that are coming in. We were just doing a case study with a roofing client that has been with us about a year and a half, and they spend about $4,500 a month on PPC. Their PPC right now is getting them about a 3x return on investment, which they're super, super happy with, right? Their SEO, on the other hand, is getting them a 59x return on investment. And that's in the exact month, right? So that's lead coming in. That's them selling them within the first 30 days. They still have another $170,000 worth of quoted value that could potentially hit this month. That's from last month's numbers. So where everybody goes wrong with Google Ads specifically is they're like, what's in it for me right now? So they're like, I got to hit 10x. I got to do all that stuff. If you're getting anywhere from 3 to 5x on Google Ads, depending upon the industry, that's pretty darn good. Even if you're breaking even or losing a little bit of money in marketing, it's that loss leader. So that's a job, that's a review, that's then putting flyers on the doors of those neighbors in the subdivision that you probably didn't know you could also do business in. It's turning that one lead into multiple leads. It's taking the videos, it's taking the pictures, and then promoting it all over social media. People are looking at Google Ads or Facebook ads as this thing, because it used to kind of be that way, especially on Facebook, where you could put money in and you could generate
You're printing.
$10 to $20,000, right? Doesn't happen that way. With SEO, a lot of our clients will look at Google Ads as, hey, we're going to make a little bit of money potentially on Google Ads, but that Google Ads is then going to pay for the SEO, because the SEO is that kind of like slow burn. So this client, when they started with us, had been with us for a year and a half, they weren't making any money on SEO because we had to rebuild the website and it was gradually growing. Well, now they're getting 59x return on investment with that, and the Google Ads is paying for itself. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm at 59x with SEO and Google Ads is only 3. Like, I need to stop Google Ads. Okay. Like, I would put in $1 to get 3 back almost any day of the week.
Right.
Especially when I was getting 59 on the other side.
I've spent a lot of money on ads, especially in the service-based industry. And I think when I go, and I've spent it in different industries as well, which I think is important. I've done the Facebook ads, the Instagram ads, the YouTube ads, the Google ads. I mean, I've done everything.
You've done it all.
Right? I've spent multiple 6 figures as well on ads. And years back when I first started doing it, you could notice a transition, we'll say, right, with the ads, because there's more companies coming up, there's more people spending money, and I didn't know any better, right? So if I spent $5,000 and I got five grand back in return. I'm like, I got to stop doing this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, right? I'm losing money. When the bigger people that I've connected with, the companies that are doing 9 figures, what they made me aware of is, hey, if I break even, or maybe even if I lose a little money on the front end, it still could potentially be a win, but how can you make it a win?
Yeah.
You know, and like I always give this example of, I went on Google Ads and I typed in mobile detailers. I didn't want to go to a detailer, and I hired this guy. He came out. Most people are cheapskates on the phone. Say I had one car, and I was like, hey, man, I'm willing to pay $250. Take it or leave it. Right. And he's like, oh, I spent $50 on this lead. I'll probably come out there.
Yeah.
Well, if he had employees and trucks and insurance and stuff like that, there's not much profit there. So how does it even make sense? Well, I posted a video of him, spraying the foam cannon on the car. And all these people started asking, hey, who is that? Can you send me their contact info? Where at that moment I realized, wow, if I broke even, and just by, getting that review that you were talking about, just by utilizing their network or them referring business, I can turn that, maybe I lost money on the front end, and I can turn that into a positive. And if you can do that, which 99% of your competitors are not thinking that way, you can outspend everyone, and you're going to become the leader in your market.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
Like
no-brainer.
it's kind of what we talked about. Is like, how do you turn every opportunity into more things? And that's where people are like, oh gosh, like I'm not going to make any money on this job. I don't even want to do it. Well, like if he would have had that mentality, he could have done a crappy job on your car. He could have just lost the potential free marketing and advertising. And so, but those are typically the people, like, we're seeing this weird shift in the industry where there's so many people trying to start businesses in a variety of different industries. And the market isn't what it was last year, even a couple of years ago. Like the cost per clicks in your space over the last 3 years have only continued to go up. They're not going down, right? And there's more competitors. That's why. If you're just trying to go in and like dip your toe into entrepreneurship and you're like, all right, I got to like make all this money in the first 90 days, like you're just not going to survive. It doesn't matter if you don't do ads, if you do ads, if you do freaking door knocking or whatever, it's not going to last because there's less people buying what you have and more competition. Over the next 12 to 24 months, you're going to see a lot of companies go out of business, and for the right reason, because they shouldn't have been in business probably in the first place. But also the last 3 years since COVID, a lot more money was going around, right?
Yeah,
it was a lot easier to start business, right? So it was inflated. And the people that survive these next 12 to 24 months are going to be the heads of those industries in their locations for the next 10 to 15 years because they built that pipeline, they built that stability in their company, and they're not playing the short game. They're playing the long game.
So me and you, we were talking about ads a couple months ago, and how, newer businesses who maybe don't have any entrepreneurship experience, they come in and they're like, they want to start spending money on ads, but they don't have entrepreneurship experience whatsoever, right? To where they're going to end up not being profitable. And you said something about me when I was growing my business, and the difference was I was hustling, doing all those organic techniques, doing the organic Facebook posting, going to B&I meetings, doing what most people don't want to do, when you could just run ads and sit at your house all day long and not really leave, and you're going to start getting leads.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing, is like, if you're a new entrepreneur, instead of going out and spending money immediately, go out there and be in the trenches and try to be as profitable as possible and actually make money organically and do organic stuff. So you learn the business, you get that experience before you start spending money on ads, because they might end up losing money from the rip because they just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So somebody who, they're doing all the right things. They're doing the SEO. They're doing the paid per click. You obviously record their calls. You can see that they're getting leads. Data doesn't lie. Some of these people who do not know how to perfect the leads that they get, right? Their phone skills. What can you say to maybe somebody who's struggling, or maybe they haven't even thought about, hey, I probably suck on the phone calls? Because I've listened to a lot of phone calls when I thought maybe they were great.
Yeah.
When I go back and I'm like, how could you ever expect to land any jobs to where you're going to increase your booking rate, you're going to increase your close rate, you're going to make more money, to where maybe you could be making more money somewhere right now, you just don't realize it.
Yeah. So I would say like the biggest thing is honestly just picking up the phone. Like there's so many calls and we have hundreds and hundreds of leads between all of our clients every single month. We literally can see how many holistically of the people that don't answer right off the cuff. And of course there's after hour stuff. So I don't expect every phone call to be answered, right? But there's a lot. And there's also a lot of people calling in after the fact that are being like, hey, Kyle, it's Adam. I called last week and you told me you were going to get a quote and you never reached back out or you never came by my house. So we're like looking at this with the clients and like holding people accountable and going through it with them as like, not only you're not answering the phone, but the people that you have answered, you're not getting back to them. Or we'll get a contact form in on the website. It's like, hey, still waiting for that quote. I'm trying to hire somebody to pay $30,000 to come and do this. What in the heck, right? So that's one aspect. And then just like typical like phone etiquette and selling over the phone, like, you know, it's crazy. So one of the things that we do in Google Ads is you can bid on competitor keywords. And we do that for all of our clients. No different than any marketing agency is going to do that. The reason why is because it's such a lower cost per click than junk removal near me. Also with that, somebody might also type in like landscape company near me, thinking that they're calling the company that they thought. Happens all of the time, right? But the cost per click is so low. And then when the company answers the phone, Kyle's like, you're like, hey, is this Kyle's landscape company? Oh, no, this is Adam's landscape company. Oh, okay. Well, I was trying to call Kyle's landscape company. Yeah, you got the wrong number. No, hey, and so we've started to coach our clients. I mean, we've consistently coached our clients, but the problem is the person answering the phone a lot of times in a growing business isn't the business owner. So it's like, how do you educate the person answering the phone to be able to sell for you? That's a lead that just cost you $2. Why are you not trying to be like, oh, was there anything I can help you out? Like, why were you calling them? We had this one guy sell a $40,000 concrete job at a school, like at a school in a parking lot and then building the tennis courts, all because he did that. Most of the time, if they actually were ready to hire that other company or already doing business with that other company, they would have the phone number. They just clicked a random ad. You should take advantage of that opportunity. And it happens time and time again. People just aren't in that selling mindset, which is why you got to get your employees to think like business owners.
Every single lead counts coming into your business. You know, I started going back and look at the numbers in my business of like, we've taken thousands, like literally thousands of calls where if we, like a lot of people, they just take the new leads as they come in, you know, and they're just taking the new ones and they're not worrying about the old ones. You know, you talk to them one time, you don't talk to them again. Where we took that like literally thousands of sales calls. And I'm like, if we just went extremely hard with the leads that we already had, as we had a team that was already handling the new ones coming in, I would have made way more money than I actually did.
Yeah, there's money sitting in there. And then you reactivate that with emails, text messages, phone calls, what have you. It's like, all right, you're going to get something out of it. Like, no different.
And if I run an ad for junk removal and you click on it, it costs me, or we'll say you call me and it costs me $50 for you to call me. And you say, hey, I'm looking to get junk removal in the next 2 months, you know, and you figure out more about my company, whatever. And you're like, okay, I'll give you a call back. Okay, sounds good. You know, sounds good. That's it. And then people, that lead might have been lost when if you just wrote their information down or if you collected that data.
Task.
Yeah, if you put it in the CRM, where this was a big mistake that I had. I was spending so much money consistently on ads over and over and over again. And all the leads that we didn't land, I collected none of that data. Now, could I go back and get it on what converts and stuff like that? Yeah, I could have, but I didn't.
Did a lot of work.
Yeah, but I look at if I just repurpose that, right? I paid for that lead. Basically, all I did was I paid for their information.
Yeah.
I got the information, but what am I going to do with it? Am I going to throw it in the trash can?
Yeah.
Or am I going to put it in my CRM to where the automation's going to start kicking? And where I lost money today on that $50 lead, I might get that back in 6 months, but you never know unless you actually collect that data.
Exactly.
So I want to move into the personal brand side of things because you're building a really, really strong brand. You got a podcast. You're really big on Facebook and LinkedIn, and you're posting on TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff. Talk to me a little bit about your personal brand, what it's done for you, kind of where you're trying to take things.
Yeah. So 3 weeks after I went full-time in entrepreneurship, I had basically took the first 3 weeks and thought I was, being an entrepreneur. I was hanging out in my pool at 3 p.m. and I was like, this is the life, right? And then I realized I don't know how to get more clients. Like, I have some clients and I have some projects, but I don't know how to go get more. I decided to join a mastermind called Apex, and that basically taught me how to be building a personal brand and becoming the authority in your space. And the reason why I realized I needed to join that mastermind 3 weeks in is because I had just came from medical device sales, where I had one other competitor for our main product and two other competitors in the mass situation, which we already talked about why I was successful. I didn't have to market myself. I just had to answer the phone, do good, solution sell, and take care of people. Awesome. Well, then I go into marketing, digital marketing at that, where there's hundreds of thousands of options that are out there. There's people's brothers and sisters that do it. There's the friends, there's the family, there's freaking small agencies, large agencies, freelancers, and everything in between. And I realized at that moment, in building those 200 websites and starting to have those conversations, people were always complaining about marketers that not only did they feel like they weren't getting what they paid for, but they were getting spammed time and time again by marketers all over social media. So I thought about it. I was like, all right, how can I depict how to build a personal brand different than every other digital marketer that's out there? What do business owners want to talk about and hear about? Well, they want to talk about self-development and growth. If they're an ideal client for mine, typically all of the clients that I work with are like you, that they're like, hey, I want to build. We had so many conversations that had nothing to do with digital marketing. It was about how do we grow businesses? How do we grow as individuals? That's who I want to attract. So I decided to start posting twice a day on Facebook and once a day on some of those other platforms and produce content that had 90% nothing to do with digital marketing, but day in the life of the entrepreneur, the ups and the downs, the personal development, the motivation, determination type of stuff. Because at the end of the day, even though we're in two different industries, we deal with about 80% of the same stuff in our business. We already talked about how we hired and maintained retained employees, how we did our own branding, how we took care of payroll, those types of things, with the 20% being about the industry. So I decided to flip the script there and just not try to sell, but provide value and then walk into a sale. So I did that with 10% of it being about digital marketing, more in the storytelling aspect, and it started to really take off. People were like, Adam knows what he's doing. He's actually got 200 case studies of websites he can show you, and he's not trying to sell me. People were just reaching out to me like, hey, credit card, I'm ready to go. And so that continued to evolve into the podcast, into speaking opportunities across the country, here in St. Louis, and then even international, led into opportunities of being guests on other people's podcasts, doing virtual summits and events and things like that. So that's the Adam McChesney as the entrepreneur, with the goal of separating that from anything that I do at Height. I started to take on some consulting clients, start to do some potential partnerships and things like that. So that was the overarching reason in the beginning of how do I be different than every other digital marketer that's spamming. You probably get messages all the time on Facebook, LinkedIn, phone calls, things like that. How do I be different? And then now that I got this differentiation with the company being successful, how do I take that to the next level?
So I think something that's super interesting that a lot of people don't think about is, so I went to a mastermind a year ago or so, and there were these fitness influencers on the yacht with all these real estate entrepreneurs, marketing companies, stuff like that. And they had 2 million subscribers on YouTube. And here we are, we're all bitching about how we don't, we've got 5,000 followers, and we're all complaining. And they're like, guys, you guys don't realize that we need the 2 million subscribers. We need the million subscribers. And we need that because we don't have anything like really to sell. We don't, they're getting paid from the platforms themselves, where you could have 2,700 followers, kind of like I did, and be making 6 figures a month just from posting on social media.
Yep.
Where a lot of people, they don't start. And also like the process to get to, like I have 70,000 followers. It took 4 years technically to grow that. A lot of that growth came in a short period of time. But you do not need a lot of followers. You do not need a lot of engagement. Every single eyeball is one person.
Yeah.
For all the views that you get is just one person. And you could be getting a few hundred views, a few thousand views. And people think that that's not effective when it's tremendously effective, and it could be scaling your business.
Yeah.
And also look at all the opportunities that you've had with probably podcasts, speaking gigs, stuff like that. Just because you're building a brand, it opens up 100 more doors for you.
Yeah.
When I think a lot of people, they need to focus, they shouldn't focus on the money. They need to focus on just getting the content out there,
Mm-hmm.
and things are going to start coming in return.
Yeah, it's a compound effect. So you said two things there. You said, yeah, it took me 4 years, but a lot of it happened in a short period of time. That's how business success typically does. It's a journey, but it happens. And you see that upward mobility no different than SEO, right? Where it's like, okay, you got to the first page and now phone calls just start to come in. Can take time. The other aspect is, yeah, with my personal brand specifically, I'm doing those individual things, trying to turn that one opportunity into multiple opportunities. So I go get that speaking event, I go do that podcast, I go do X, Y, and Z, and then I take the content from that and then repurpose it on my social media when other people are doing it. Like I'll post this obviously as well, or I'll go speak at somebody else's event, take a video person with me to then go take that one opportunity and build 3, 4, and more over there. No different than getting a Google ad lead coming in, PPC lead. You then take that opportunity and how do I build more on top of it?
Yeah, you got to basically what I just took out of what you said of going to events and stuff like that and taking people with you, or being here today and we're filming the whole entire conversation. Think of how many conversations that me and you have had where there's been a lot of value that we've actually provided, where we could have had the camera on us 24/7 and we'd have a million clips by now.
Oh yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking about how many clips that we would already have right now, and a lot of people could be having that with their business. You know, you look at Brad Lee's content. It's all, he's doing coaching calls and he's doing different stuff like that. It's all
his life.
Yeah, I mean, it's just his life, and that's all you have to do. And that was the biggest thing that I learned that took me to the next level is you got to quit thinking about how you can create content. You know, people, when they're not posting content, they're like, what can I start creating? Well, I can post about this. I can post about this. When you could just start documenting what you're doing. Maybe if you're a junk removal owner, you could be on the job site. Hey, we're clearing out this garage today. Or, hey, you're at a podcast, right? Or you're having a conversation. You're on a coaching call or an Apex call and you say some stuff. All that could be clipped and put on your social media, which in return is going to come in your favor. More doors are going to open up.
Of course.
So Adam, if we could end off here on like where can people find you, and also what advice could you give maybe entrepreneurs out there, just the biggest, the best things that you've learned that have got you to where you're at today?
I probably going to sound cliche, but literally just don't quit, I think is the biggest thing that I can leave as far as piece of advice goes. There's going to be no smooth sailing when you're doing this stuff. Like over the last 3 years, you and I have obviously grown a lot, but it hasn't came easy. I've tried to open up about some of the struggles that I have had, but you never know the full picture of what somebody's going through. And when you try to compare yourself and talk yourself into quitting or giving up or shifting and focusing in other directions, just follow the game plan, right? As long as you know the game plan is going to work, which you should, right? You just can't quit. You might have to pivot, but don't quit. And the overarching aspect from that is you don't want to compete with other people in theory, right? You're always going to do that, but competing with yourself and just having that 1% a day being better than you were yesterday, today, that's all you can control. And man, I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. It was a great time. Always enjoy talking with you. Love what you're doing. But people can find me. The easiest way is to go to AdamMcChesney.com. You can also find me on Instagram. That'll be the platform that is easiest to get a hold of me right now. And that's Adam L. McChesney.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you hopping on.
Of course.
We'll see you guys on the next one.